All right, this is online. Let's see if Ludovic joins, because this would be really nice. So, oh crap! I didn't mean. I can see myself on the other screen. Gone. Hmm. All right. We're mainly cleaning things up lately. Before we get started with finishing what we call milestone 2, and milestone 2 being all topologies supported, right behind, what else? Milestone 2, right behind all the serialization copy strategies supported, right through, obviously, too. All the event listeners right in all the stores, and many 107, how would I say that, improvements or whatnot. So that's what we're sort of trying to do. But more interestingly, in the near future, there are there are two very interesting things that are coming up, right? One being ARC, the other one being the resilience strategy, and then after that we move on to the cluster world. And ARC came up in one of many ways today. Here is Ludovic, because I spoke to Ludovic about that a bit earlier this morning, and so the I'm not sure like how much we can really discuss that in depth today, but it's probably good to see like as many brains as possible with this information. So the question being that today there is maybe a little bit too tight coupling between the tiering and the actual store providers that we have. And the coupling happens in a multitude of ways, but maybe most importantly is that it could well be that we got the fundamental coupling wrong. What I'm trying to say is it's this graph that I have here, actually. So let me get rid of this because that's unrelated, and that too. But it's this graph there. It's the we're never really thinking in terms of resources when configuring a tiered model at the service, at all the different services level. That's what I'm saying. And I wonder how much of that is wrong. And it's not necessarily a big deal, even if it's not as, how was I say, conceptually pure or whatnot in terms of modeling the systems that we have. But I wonder what this will mean to ARC when we get to doing ARC, if anything. Because ARC will all be about, we did say that we want resources to sort of become first-class citizen, right? That's what's going on with the sizing, capacity constraints on live caches. That's what's going on, right?
The problem with so ARC is already all kinds of messed up in 2x in terms of sort of conceptual purity or whatever you want to call it, because it's implemented in two different ways. And you can sort of think of them as push and pull models, kind of, in the sense that off-heap ARC works in a pull manner, in the sense that there is a real pool of resources, and off-heap caches pull resources from the pool. And the pool, and if you try and pull resource from a pool, it will potentially pull resource from other resources to honor your request, if it thinks these. And now there's a whole bunch of complexity in all the details of that, which makes things even worse, conceptual purity-wise. But that's kind of broadly true. Whereas the heap and the old disk store, although that probably won't be true of the new disk store, maybe, is much more of a push model. You do a put. It's a different sense in the sense that so in heap you do a put and you say, what's the size of the thing I'm putting? Hello, Mr. Resource Pool. Is there enough space for this thing? It's very much responsibilities reversed.
Right, but for the heap, heap is a very special beast, right? Because
right.
For other pools, you're actually pushing from the heap into the pool, except for the heap, because it's already on heap, right? Your key and your value are already there.
Right. But this is the thing.
How many heap also has a limited set of resources, right?
Totally. How many things are there in Arc, though?
Sorry, I missed your question.
Well, how many resource types are there?
Well, yeah, that's an interesting question. So if you look at this thing here, I made the cluster. So yeah, I gave. Well, I know that you and I already discussed that in the past, Chris, right?
Do you want to forget about clustered for the moment for the sake of sanity?
No, actually, I was about to talk about clustered.
Okay.
I like to think of that as one single resource, pretty much opaque. How this, certainly from the... So, anyways.
Which is totally fine, because that's how the L2 wants to present itself. Because at the end of the day, why do we distinguish between the three tiers and unclustered?
Why do we distinguish between these?
There's two reasons, right?
Which are?
Yeah.
One is we might have that they are physically well. One is we might have different amounts of them, or we do have different amounts of them. So presumably you have a lot of disk, less memory, and even less heap.
Right.
Okay. If people always had as much heap as they have memory, we wouldn't have off heap. There wouldn't be a distinction in that resource. If people regularly deployed without disks, at least without regular disks, or without space to use their disks, we wouldn't have a disk resource. So in the nirvana of the future, where all memory is the same and it's all persistent and it's all main memory latency, we'll probably just have one resource. And garbage collection algorithms are perfect and can scale to arbitrarily large data sizes. We'll probably just have one resource. But we don't. So there's one of the reasons we have three. The other reason is performance, latency. Three different latencies, right? Heap's fast, off heap's slightly slower, and disk is slower still. The thing is, the second one isn't true for the LT, because it's all behind a network, and the network latency swamps everything else. Broadly speaking.
Okay, yeah, but I'm still confused where you get.
So that's why I think that's what I'm saying. That's the foundation in my head for the argument that clustered is one resource.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's I'm fine with.
I'm not saying. I mean, you're saying it's one resource because it makes it clean and simple. I'm saying there's a good reason it's one resource.
Yes and no. Okay, I don't think you want to get into this argument now. I think it becomes somebody else's concern. How about that?
Yes.
That's my main thing. Because you could start thinking of right in a complex setup. Start thinking about data locality concerns and a bunch of things. Anyways, I don't think.
Cool. That's
not what I want to get at. The point I wanted to get at is, what is it? Is that today it's either or, right? We did toy with the idea that there is no fundamental reason to not allow somebody to use the disk if there is a clustered store below. It comes with an additional complexities that you can't always guarantee. So in the case of clustered, the additional thing. So there are different. Crap! I lost another pens here. So in the case of clustered, right? This is shared.
It's really hard to read what you're writing on the board. I hope you realize that. I can see the pyramid.
Right, because you guys know this pyramid, right? So heap on top of heap here, that's disk, and that's clustered here.
But what we're actually saying is it's either 3 tiers unclustered or it's 3 tiers clustered.
Right. So the one difference with the clustered stuff is that somebody could be changing something here, so that you need to tell the stuff above that it changed, right?
Right. Yeah.
So that's the difference, and the problem if all of a sudden you're persistent, you cannot have a guarantee that there is a thread available here to actually mutate this guy, i.e. the node could be down. Like no processes.
Yes.
Running.
Yes. You can't. You can use the disk, but you can only use it in a temp swap. We have to blow out way when we go down. Point.
Yeah. Exactly. So we had all those discussions, blah blah blah.
Yeah, but the thing to me is if assuming that that's unlikely, I don't think many people are going to want to deploy in that environment. Assuming that's true, right? And even if it's not, the argument still holds. I think my argument still holds. It's just weaker. Heap is special.
Yeah.
Off heap is special. Clustered is special for a very large number of reasons. Why the hell are we worried about conceptual purity? Everything's special. Every single one of the tiers has weird things about it that makes it weird and different. There is no conceptual purity innately, so why try and enforce it?
Okay. So what you're saying is that a store should not be thought about?
What I'm saying is, I don't want to, out of some sort of not high-minded, that's not the right way of putting it. I don't want to look at the tiering stuff and go, oh my god, this thing is not conceptually pure and it understands what the store types are, and go, that's hideous. Unnecessarily. Yes, if it can be made agnostic of the store types, that's great. But given how little conceptual purity is when you step away from when you look at other things about how the different tiers interact, I don't think it's necessarily the end of the world that there's a little bit of bleed there.
Right, but okay, so maybe my point was really not clear. I think that in the ARC world, we're thinking about pools of those type of resources.
Right.
Okay? Today, in Ehcache 3, we do not reflect this onto regular stores internally. So what goes on is that there is, how does it work? Well, actually, right now you could even argue it doesn't work. Is that we most probably hard code the store provider we're looking for based on the resource. There is no decoupling between the two.
Right. Okay.
So the only way that you can say you want to use another disk store, say, or another heap store, is to override the default one and you be the one and only one.
Yeah.
Instead of
or have an independent resource type.
Which is, I'm looking for a store that uses this resource, and they all become sort of, there is, a resourced store provider that you can use in order to tell it, give me this resource. Then you can provide context and other stuff. And then the tiering thing is somebody else's concern. The resource has become a first-class citizen, and the same is then, I think, this is where we're going to go when we get to the pool stuff. It's going to be exactly the same for the pools, right? You will be asking of pools of given sizes of a given resource.
Yep.
So what I'm saying is that I think there is a disconnect today. Well, there is no disconnect because the ARC stuff isn't there. This is why it isn't a huge problem, I think. Right now it's hard-coded. There is no...
If you ask for off-heap resource, you get...
No, you don't ask for off-heap resource. What you ask for is the off-heap store provider to give you a store. Does that make sense?
Yes, you want to provide an indirection.
The resource that the two are sort of one.
So totally, yes. No, you want to decouple that. That's fine.
And
I don't have a problem with that.
I think we're naturally going to get to that when we do the pools, anyways.
I don't think you'll naturally get to it.
If we ignore ARC, it's not a problem.
Right.
Well, our model is good enough.
It is.
Yeah, there is.
If somebody wants to write a different off-heap store, if somebody wants to use Apache Direct Memory, for example, not that it's...
Yeah, well, it's still possible, right? But what you end up needing to do is really like do your own distro, right? You need to override... Actually, no, there is one...
No, you can define your own resource type.
the thing that sorry.
You could define your own resource type, right?
No. Actually,
You
it
not do
would
that.
work because.
Yes,
Oh
you
no,
can do
no.
that.
Actually, no. You're right, Chris. Sorry, I'm an idiot. Whatever I say is wrong. You're right. It's not possible because we hard reference the. There are some modularity stops. The default thing provider will use the
Yes.
cache store provider, the one that composes. Because if you use off-heap, you're obviously in this model, right?
Yep.
The tiered model.
Yeah.
And what you then what this guy ends up doing is like referencing the off-heap store provider, if my memory serves. So yes, it's going to be ours, right? So obviously you could override this class to be something else.
But it feels like right. So you're not worried about. Yes. Okay. What you're really worried about is the fact that it is not so much the implementation is being bound at runtime, although that may be true. You're worried that everything's bound together modularity-wise. It's not really modular there, and because of that, we've naturally bound other things together.
That's just an example of it, actually. The way that this came up is in something that I hadn't thought was broken, but was broken, and Ludovic found it. Right? So I place some stricter rules on how the service provider accepts services that it registers with it.
Right.
And as such, I came up with a supplementary service annotation that you can say this service is actually an indirection that another service uses internally. So you don't need to bother registering it under any abstract type that it may know about. And that's all fine, except for one case. Is that the world in which we live today, the heaps. So the default the default store provider becomes like the one store provider. That's perfectly good because it's the one to rule them all, as I call it, right? It's the one that knows if we need to compose to this model or whether we can directly return a heap store, for instance, right? So that's good. So it knows about the heap store, for instance. The heap store itself doesn't get registered as a store provider per se. It does get registered under a caching tier provider.
Mm-hmm.
The off-heap is the one that I think gets registered. Well, it depends now on how you bootstrap stuff. But anyways, you got a conflict because the off-heap and the disk are both trying to register as
authoritative tier.
Right, providers.
Right.
And neither of them is the right or the wrong one, right? And then I'm like, okay, so what do we do? And obviously one thing that I can do is say, that's what I did for now, is that we said that the disk one is the supplementary one, but it's actually not true. There is no relationship between those two guys. This one doesn't supplement this one. It does sort of in this pyramid if you want.
So what we're really talking about is you want you don't want authority providers and and caching tier providers. You want resource providers.
Because the reason we need the caching provider, for instance, in this case,
right,
is because, and this is why I knew that the code was busted. And I'm like, okay, but nobody wrote that code yet, so we'll see that it's a problem only later.
Isn't what you want?
That there is no caching tier that's composed of two things yet.
Right.
The code that has the heap and the off-heap as the caching tier above the disk doesn't exist in the 3x.
But isn't there? There's basically, it seems like what's going on here is there's. So at the base of all of this, what the user's doing is saying, is defining a bunch of resources, and it seems like
that's not reflected throughout the model. At one point, we just take a shortcut and we hide what how far do we ask for into hard-coded types into the system. So this is why I said I understand what we're talking about here is a little bit like into La La Land because we're arguing about sort of architectural purity of the whole thing to an extent.
Yeah, and there's a good chance that at least well, here's the thing. There's a very strong chance that we will never actually support anyone using anything other than R1s. But that doesn't mean that it shouldn't work.
Right. And that's what I'm getting. And beyond that, we're still doing this word kind of mapping to all of a sudden concrete types based on resources. And this mapping doesn't exist. It's not conceptually, architecturally reflected into the model that we use. All of a sudden, it's just some developer knows that when some guy talks about on-heap resource, we need to use the on-heap store provider. which happens
Right.
to be
So,
a concrete
well,
class.
yeah, right. So the resource types are baked into core, right? Because they're part of the XML schema and part of the config and stuff.
Are they into core or are they into the API?
Either way, they're baked in. Okay, if they're in the okay, yeah, if they're not in core, technically you don't have to worry. I'm wondering how far back we need to pull it.
Yeah, they're into API. Resource
Cool.
type.
So they're fundamental. So
Yeah.
then what you're really talking about is having. You need a service that will that can basically define that mapping, which is to say, a service that says, well, you want two things actually. You want a thing that is, at its most fundamental, you need a store assembly thinger.
Right.
Which says, here's a list of resources, here's a bunch of resources, and here's the store that gets spat out.
Right.
That it will make, and then it itself may then depend on factories, and the fact, and our implementation is going to depend on factories of authorities and caching tiers, and we'll know how to assemble them. Now the question is, if you just provide the hooks that says basically, you have a service that takes a list of resources and spits out a store with some modulo stuff from when Arc comes along for how to handle important sections, whatever. Don't worry about that right now because it's too confusing. If you put a pluggable service at that point, right, then technically someone can replace the whole thing.
Yeah.
Question is, do we have to provide other things? Is it okay to just do that, or should we also say, right? So then the modularity of how you assemble and is one thing, and then we also expose the point where that thing asks for authorities and caching tiers. I.e., if you are Apache Direct Memory, since I've been cited that as the first example, if you're them and you want to say, we don't want to use the Terracotta's off implementation, we want to use our own, should they be forced to either write the whole store assembly, caching tier logic, blah, blah, blah crap themselves, and therefore write a bunch of code they don't necessarily want to write? Or should they be able to say, actually, no, don't want to plug in at that higher layer. We want to plug in and write our own implementation of the off-heap authority, of the authoritative tier using Apache Direct Memory and reuse all of their tier assembly. And
I think the two should work.
So you reckon both of them should exist? That's cool.
Well, anyways, I don't really think, again, that we want to do any of this today. I just, this whole annotation thing made me realize that in naming the annotation, I think it made sense because the default and the caching sort of go hand in hand.
Right.
The default one's sole job is to know where to delegate to, right? One being a core type, the other one being sort of himself. We just made it pluggable so that you can plug again, right? This is the one that's responsible for how you do this split, right? So, anyways, I don't think we need to do anything now. I'm just like, there is something there that's lurking, and I think we should try to address this as part of Arc when we do Arc, because I think hopefully the concepts will more naturally surface at that point then. So for fixing what I did now is that effectively when you ask if any code, not ours because ours hot codes the type, but if somebody would come around and provide like a cache store implementation that it would use to replace ours, and it would ask for an authority, the default authority you'd get always is the off-heap store. That's what it translates to today. And this is what I realized this is wrong because it shouldn't be, right? It should be if the guy configured the authority as being off-heap, or it should be disk if that's what the guy configured. And I realized, yeah, there is this disconnect here of things we model at the type system level and not. Anyways.
Yeah, I think what
discussing all this, by the way, I think we're totally batshit crazy, right? In case anybody wonders. Sorry, Ludovic.
Yes, it really is up in thin air. But still, I think when you request a store provider or an authoritative tier or a caching tier, you should say, I want an authoritative tier that supports those resources.
Right. But that's in the direction that we're talking about having, right? Because the other way, and so disk has this additional property that is possibly persistible, to use the existing wording of today, and cluster has another property that it's shared. So you could qualify them on further with something totally orthogonal to resources.
That
just
still
like
won't get
their
it
semantics.
fully, because to go back on Chris' example, say there is Apache Direct Memory and they provide off-heap resource. So it's another, well, high-level wise, it's strictly identical to raw off-heap store. It provides only off-heap with the as a store provider,
Yeah.
or an authoritative tier. So you would have two. Which one do you choose?
No, but that's
when a user configures, I want a cache with off-heap and heap.
That is not possible today, right? So that's one of the limitations. If you do that, even if you use the Ehcache distro, you can override. It's only when the service gets loaded, right? The factory of the service gets loaded that it gets registered. The thing is, you can shortcut that by registering yours before starting the cache manager. So if you do that, in that case, you could override, even on a distro, the off-heap provider being the one that uses Apache Direct Memory, and it would just work. It's fine. The thing that doesn't work is on the per cache, when a single cache manager, decide which one you want to use abstractly. Which, when you think about it, sort of totally makes sense. How would you define this? You say you want the thing that provides off-heap memory, but I want this one. Well, you can't do that. All you need to do is register your service manually again. It will not be registered as a root. It will be registered under the actual type of that. And then you can say, I want Apache Direct Memory off-heap store provider. And that would work too. And you can and again, what people can do is add their own indirection, right? They could have Apache directory blah 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 with the matching config that says that it configures an Apache Direct Memory store provider blah blah blah. And if there is an additional indirection, you can always add, right? You just need to add. You can, right? As long as Java will be happy, you can add subclasses, interfaces, and many directions as you want, and then reference them like that. That works too, right? What we're really focusing on here is like concrete types. So I know it gets kind of really messy, but this is why I'm like, the more I'm discussing this, I'm like, it's crazy. I'm not sure what incurred into whomever laid the ground for this framework for Ehcache 3, but those guys were crazy.
Yep. I hesitate to bring this. I'm tempted to bring up a topic.
I don't know.
Ludwig will hate me.
Oh, he hates you.
I already hate you.
Sweet! Okay, I'll bring it up anyway. Serializers, because Ludwig mentioned it on config. Ludwig mentioned it on that thread.
Yeah, we spent quite some time discussing that this morning. So yeah, maybe before you bring anything up, maybe you want Ludovic to give you the insight onto where we're going. Because
yes, that's what I would like to do, because I saw that mouth and like, oh my god, that's a lot of complicated.
Right. So how about you present that to a group, Ludovic?
We want to go that way.
Can we go that way? Cool, is that north?
I think I just pointed the direction of UK.
This is going south.
Good direction.
Yeah.
What did we decide? Well, what could I show you?
You might want to share something at this point, because I don't think there's any way you're going to be able to explain this without writing.
Didn't Louis send you the stuff that we did it live on?
He would. Of course, he forgot. What do you expect from your manager, huh?
Well, I expect a lot, but I don't get much.
Right.
Teach Louis to miss the meeting.
Hope he won't watch it.
Of course he won't watch it.
I need to
really hope he won't watch it.
Present to everyone. All right, Ludovic's in control.
You might want to pick a slightly larger font than that. It's fine for me. I'll move you to the Guanta, but he's going to presenter mode now, isn't he? Oh,
how'd you like that?
You're not sharing.
Why not?
So no, I don't like it at all. All I can see is you.
Oh.
You were sharing, but it stopped.
It looks like whatever you did stopped the sharing.
All right.
Actually, hang on, I was confused because I just clicked like stop presenting for you, so it still believed that you were presenting to everyone.
You can make someone present to everyone as a person.
Oh,
it just
okay.
means the video gets shown all the time.
Don't you need to stand up then?
I guess so, but I don't think it's clever enough to tell that. It can't tell the difference between. It assumes that if you're, I don't know, was it talking and typing at the same time, and the sound of you talking is actually the sound of you typing, and now he's sharing. And then Alex can click the button.
Done.
So we can see it now, and then you go in presentation mode.
And then everything stops.
And there we go, magic. Cool.
Da-na-na.
Right.
Right, so what was discussed? Where should we start? Well, yeah. This is how you could define the default serializers.
Cool.
Yeah, and I had tons of questions, and I'm not sure if I should all reproduce them here or just go to the conclusions.
Go to the conclusions, and then if I can think of, and then I'll think of some questions. And maybe
Okay.
I'll probably end up reproducing your list, but maybe some of the ones that you've already dealt with I won't reproduce.
So let's start by the end. On every cache, you can now define
Cool.
All right, can I start already? That's not really how we said we'd do it.
Thank you very much, Alex. Did I say I was completely done with the implementation?
No, that's fine. It's just the element that's scary. Didn't we say we wanted to add the serializer as part of the key type element itself?
Yes, we did, but I'm not yet done with that.
Okay.
Okay. You just mean right. So, but then don't please the XSD. Just write the code as you plan on doing it, for real. Even if it appears red and idea thinks that you're crazy, that's okay. We all know you're crazy anyways.
You can do this. Value serializer, value type.
Serializer. And that overrides whatever is defined.
Yeah, that's the single root.
You get that.
Right.
Cool.
You
Nice.
specify it on the cache, you get that. Nothing else.
Right. And
Obviously,
presumably
this
there's
works-
some way of programmatically checking out when you load this config that thing is capable of serializing other things type.
Yeah, we could add that to the serializer stuff, but I'm not sure whether that's the case today. But...
So the serializer stuff, what do you mean the serializer stuff? You mean in
Well,
the
you would
Java?
need to be able to query the you cannot.
Yeah,
you can, but you cannot necessarily provide at bootstrap time an instance of foo to the foo serializer to see whether it works. So you would probably need.
Yeah, you'd probably want to have a method on serializer. Can you serialize everything that's can you serialize things of this type?
Right. We could do that.
String in this case.
Yes, we could.
Or string.class, more point, not the point. Cool. So that's the implementation detail, whatever.
So that obviously works for templates.
But I can only specify one of those, presumably, as well.
Or you could say, key type and value type. Here, you don't specify serializer, and then you will get one from the default list.
Cool. Nice. And is there and presumably there is an Uber default?
Right, there is one that's implied all the time, yes.
Cool.
Yes, there is one that is implied, the Java serializer.
Okay. Tell me when you're done.
Which takes effectively Java, whatever serializable as the type, right?
Cool.
So how do we resolve?
There's an Uber default assuming that your key or value type is a serializable type. If it's not, you have to specify one if you want to be able to serialize it.
Am I muted?
No. No, you are.
Typing, though. It's doing weird thing.
It's hear me because Google says I'm muted.
You were. What the?
It's it's muting you when you type. Just click the thing that says "Don't mute."
Whatever. You can hear me. So there was a flow in what you proposed, Alex, and I'll come to it. But the idea is, okay, here you specified a string, so I will go from that list, bottom up, and figure out, oh, is that compatible with string? No. Is that compatible with string? No. Is that compatible with string? Well, is that a type that string can be cast to? No. Is that string can be cast to that? Yes. So that will be your serializer.
What if? Okay, is it? Presumably, it's not actually parsed top to bottom to top.
It's resolved bottom to top.
Actually, yeah. Well, that's not what I proposed, though. But okay.
What if it's? What if? So here's the question: if I put Ehcache serializer type equals Java-lang char sequence.
Exactly. So my proposal wasn't that. My proposal was you make, obviously you want to make that below now. My proposal was we first look for an exact type match, i.e. the concrete, well, no, an exact type match actually is really what I mean, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can't find that, then you fall back to abstract types.
Mm-hmm. So that means in that list, we need to make the difference between concrete types and interfaces.
Why? You don't need to make the difference. Yeah, well, yeah, your code needs to do that, but the user doesn't need to.
No, not the user, but the code does need to make the difference.
Yeah.
Why?
Well, actually, no, that's true. It doesn't need to. You can search for an exact match first, always, and then start.
Just run the thing, look for an exact match. When it doesn't happen, rescan it and look for something that is a super type of view.
All right. So what you said is, oh, I specified Java-lang string here. So is there a Java-lang string here? Yes, it's there. So it's this one.
Yeah.
But if I said Java-lang, that's a cool key.
That's not
that will match number.
Right.
That will directly match nothing. So it will try, can it be cast to that? No, no, yes. So, okay, I will use this serializer.
Right.
Cool.
And the reason why I said bottom up, Chris, is to me the first line that's implied there, that's not there, is Ehcache serializer type Java serializable, default Java serializable serializer. I don't know like the exact fully qualified class names now, but you get what I mean, right? There is one that's always implied there that says serializer for serializable is this one.
Right, but the parsing order doesn't matter. Assuming that you think of it as 3 layers, not 2.
Actually, it does. So what do you do in case of car seek? No, let's use. Oh, actually, I don't know. Let me quickly check.
What are you trying to think of?
Yeah, exactly. So in case nothing's defined for a string, right?
Right.
There is nothing defined for a string. There you go. We don't know about that, but there is one for serializable and there is one for cause sequence. Which one do you pick?
Because they're both interfaces, and one is not super than the other.
Right. So now you need to make a choice, right? And you don't. This is why I think the order matters, right?
Yeah, that's why I said bottom up.
Yep, that's and
because this one matches first. Will be this one.
Why would you pick? Why bottom up? That's a really.
No,
I could do it top down if you prefer.
Well, we can We can do it the other way around, so that you can say that there is a last one that's always implied that says it's in the case of serializable, it's the default one that we provide, that we ship along.
I mean, the other thing you can do here. Do we want to say this?
I don't know. What are you going to say?
So there are certain things that this makes impossible.
Oh, I'd love to hear that.
Well, it makes it impossible if you suppose I've got 2 caches, right?
Uh-huh.
One that is. This is going to sound contrived, and it is.
All right, go ahead.
Just because I want to try and represent something that's impossible. So I've got 2 caches.
Mm-hmm.
One is they're both string.
Right.
Right. And actually no, because they want to use. I can just specify explicitly.
Yeah, exactly. I think with that,
You can
everything.
always fall back to specifying them all explicitly in the caches.
I understand that like with defaults, not everything's expressible, but this is why we have the explicit ones, right? The defaults are fallbacks.
And oh yeah, what you got wrong, but it's minor. What is it? The default one. The
What? That's not right.
yes, it is.
No, we shouldn't. We should if you're not an instance of serializable, it should fail to match anything unless you've given an explicit match.
Yeah.
The implied one is against serializable.
Yeah.
Yes, that's what Alex proposed. So
Yeah.
this would be the implied one.
Right.
Why
Yes,
wouldn't
not
that
fit
work,
into
in
that.
my opinion?
I really think it should.
because we're
What
not
if I do
capable of
this?
serializing arbitrary objects.
What if I define my cache like this? What will be the type of the key and the value?
It's object.
Right.
Object. Okay. Can
Right.
object match serializable? No.
No,
So
shouldn't match. It's your problem.
Right. So that doesn't work. I'm confused.
I can't guarantee with it set up like this. There's no way if you've got a raw typed cache, right, object, and you want to make it serializable. I can't give you that. I can't guarantee it's not going to fail some point later because you stick something non-serializable in it.
Right. It can be object, right? But it can be of type object. That's perfectly fine. But when something that's not serializable comes around, right? Effectively, what the code does is, all right, I need to serialize this because we store by value on heap, right? So I need to serialize. I need to serialize this thing. What is this thing? Ask for the concrete type, goes look up a serializer. No serializer found? Okay, cool. Goes look at the interface. Happens that the guy typed new object. So the thing is, there is nothing else, right? Sorry, there is nothing. Couldn't find a serializer, as such it all blows up. Right? There is no premature thing that you need to do. This is why actually I realized that your idea is an awesome, Chris, of making sure that the serializer matches. We could warn in case it doesn't match, but it's perfectly fine for me to say I want this cache to be object, and I know that I use it. It doesn't need to be. We don't need to force people. It's just nothing's going to go. If you put a new object in there, it's just not going to go in because you never provided any serializer to do the job, right? What you're proposing, Ludovic, is that the serializer is the one that throws the exception by saying, sorry, you asked me to serialize this, and this is not serializable.
yes.
I'm arguing that that's not the serializer's job. The serializer, when it gets the thing, it knows how to deal with it. It could fail further down, right? Because it's an object graph, I understand that. But
So
does that make
if
sense?
this was the one,
It's
that
muting
means
you when you
this
type.
would throw an exception during configuration.
No, that's what Chris asked for. I'm saying we shouldn't do that. Maybe you could warn to tell the user it could be. Yeah, so I'm not sure whether you heard what Chris said, but you're again muted. I'm not really sure what's going on. Whether
It's when he types.
Yeah, but he's not typing.
No, but that's why it cuts in and out. I don't know what the mute symbol
But
shows.
I see the muted icon on Ludovic. So
Yeah, but you can hear me.
Yes. I think
so when Ludovic talks, looks like the mute goes away. Okay.
it doesn't. It just stays. It's got all confused, but it's definitely muting you when you type. Definitely cutting
I
your
wasn't
audio
sure
out.
since he cut off, I wasn't sure whether I was talking over you, Ludovic. That's all I wanted to say. So that being said, we could warn to say that you could have something wrong or whatnot, or maybe there are certain cases that we can deal with. If it's object, we're certain, if it's of a super type, we let it go. If it's a totally separate type, then we throw.
Yeah.
That's we're trying to
Hold on. If we don't throw an exception for this configuration, what do we do with it? What kind of serializer do we give?
Wait a sec.
Serializer is configured during the store creation.
Statically.
Statically, yes.
Okay, then it's pretty easy. Then that if that's really the way we want to have it, which I'm not saying, but since apparently that's the way we have it, well then the guy needs to provide the key type and the value.
Yeah, I don't think you should be allowed to do that.
Yeah, then it's illegal indeed, and that throws.
And if he
Okay.
wants object and to use a serializer that might subsequently throw, he has to do it explicitly here.
Yeah.
He has to say key type Java lang object, value type Java lang object, serializer equals at the cache level something that is not object. And fine, we won't check. But you shot yourself in the foot.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
don't want to encourage people to not specify key and value types.
Fine. I'm okay with that.
Cool.
Does that mean we have an agreement?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
It still bugs me that we have to define like a parsing order. It feels dirty and wrong, but I think you're right. I think you have to kind of, unless you
I
make
don't
like.
think it feels dirty and wrong because it's XML, so I think it's actually the very nature of this thing.
True.
I think in Java it's going to really look ugly though, and not
Yeah,
that cool.
because I will need some kind of linked hash map.
It's a list.
Yeah, it's a list, whatever it is, but
Yeah, but I need to look them up by type.
Yeah, but there's not going to be that many of them. Just brute force the list.
Okay, I could search.
So again, which that's not really. I find that from a, it's not very natural in Java, but you have to. Otherwise, there are things that you will not be able to do, right? Or you will get conflicts. And certainly, the one thing that you want to have is like up in the air semantic, right? It's going to be, it depends on how they add it to the hash map, for instance. And based on that, you'll see either that, or whichever way you navigate the class hierarchy, or not, which could be different.
Well, that's what they had to decide for default methods.
What?
Default methods have that problem.
Right.
Because it's introduced multiple inheritance, and then it's declaration order in the class file.
Right, so there you go, right? So we don't want to.
We don't want to be dealing with that because we don't know that. Well, you do because I think it actually returns them in declaration order from the reflection stuff now. But
yeah. So anyway, I understand that the order isn't necessarily the first thing you think of when you look at it, but when you think about it, and especially with the, I was actually during this meeting this morning, I was actually wondering whether the implied should really be implied or whether it should be like declared explicitly. And since nobody else toyed with the idea, I kept my mouth shut, and it's probably a good thing, right? I think it's a bit of a pain in the butt for the user to having to configure this default explicitly, so it might just as well be implied.
Cool.
Or maybe, in the absence of the default serializers, it's Java IO serializable, Java serializable provider, or whatever it is. Right? And if you declare the thing, then you need to possibly like override it, add it back, or whatnot. That's another option.
Right.
That it's never implied. Except if the entire thing isn't there, then it's implied. But as soon as if you put Ehcache default serializer empty, then there is no default serializers.
Cool. Since we're here in this area,
right?
Does anyone? What's the actual interface look like for serializer? Serialize T object. Okay, I'm wondering, has anyone validated that you like the common non-Java serialization frameworks can be wired into this successfully?
What
happens?
Cairo one?
Cairo, Google Protocol buffers, that kind of thing. Plus a bunch of other random shit that I'm probably not aware of. It seems like something we should probably do before we get too much further, because if that serialized interface needs to be tweaked to pass more context information or something.
Yeah.
Particularly the ones, particularly both Cairo and protocol buffers, which need upfront knowledge of what the types are and pre-process these shit and that kind of thing.
But let me cut you off there.
Does Cairo not need that?
This is planned for issue 3. No, that's different.
Is there an issue? Cool.
No, right. No, what I meant is, it's planned that all of that needs to be addressed by the end of milestone 2, and there's more work coming up on that, like around issue 369, 158, and I guess maybe we should. So maybe that's I don't think I ever mentioned this here. So I updated the wiki. So one thing that we expect people to do is come up with so engineers on the working on the task is to actually come up with examples and usages of this. So this could totally be part of that exercise because that bit is missing. Now, everything around serialization and copy strategies is actually planned for not now. How about that? This is just cleaning up the stuff that was there and was wrong. Right. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yes, that does.
Okay.
At
So
first, this
you're right,
task I was
Chris.
working on was supposed to be a simple bug fix.
Right. So I agree with what you say, Chris. What you're saying needs to happen but shouldn't happen is part of what Ludovic is doing. Is what
No,
I'm saying.
no, not at all. I just want to make sure that it was
Going
Yep.
to happen someday, yeah.
going to happen before too long because I worry that if it needs tweaking,
It will
the longer
happen
we
before
go.
the next release.
Cool.
Right. So before milestone 2 goes out, this will have been validated to the extent of some of the major ones, because the ones that you said nobody's aware of, that's going to be really hard to make it work with that. But we'll see.
We'll see.
Cool.
Any other
Alrighty.
topic?
Wow, we're out of time. For one thing, that wasn't sure whether we'll come up with anything sensible.
Cool.
All right, so guys, I wish you a happy weekend.
Yes, you lucky people with your extended
Right.
pagan weekend.
Just have to cross the pond and you'll get the same benefits.
I know.
All right, guys. Thanks a lot for your
So in
time.
the UK, it's on Monday, I think, not on Friday, isn't it?
Whatever.
Right.
Because it's May Day bank holiday. It's the Monday closest to the 1st of May, not actually on the 1st of May.
Yeah, those Brits. No respect for anything, right?
Yeah, that idea of standardising so that all public holidays are on the same day of the week, that's just weird.
All right, cool.
Cool.
Next week then.
Yep. That's it.
Bye.